So we got our first concrete information when it concerns to Cyberverse and their cast of characters. And this is pretty great because this comes straight from Hasbro.com's website, their sister part of their Transformer website, and it gives us the full Autobot and Decepticon cast, probably for Season 1 at the moment, outside of any surprise appearances. And it also gives us bios. So number one, we know now how the character designs are for those specific characters and the bios behind them. So got a full cast here. We'll kind of go through it just quickly and make notes of anything that's unique about it. So of course we have Optimus Prime. Each one of these bios are written from the perspective of Bumblebee. So they used to, I forget which, they used to kind of do that with the Allspark Almanac, where certain characters, their bio was more or less like written by the character rather than just like a standalone tech spec where it's just generic. So we have all of this here, and Optimus Prime's is pretty much, it's Optimus Prime's bio. It's Bumblebee just saying how legendary he is and how much a great leader he is and how he's his right-hand man, which is not really true in most continuities, but I guess in this one, yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Prime. Not much can be said. It's his G1 design. We kind of knew this getting into it and all the toys that were launched up to that point and revealed, which we'll be talking about later on also. Bumblebee himself, courageous scout. He talks about himself, how great he is, and yada, yada, yada. We get to Windblade.
For a character that's supposed to be have amnesia, he's talking a lot.
Oh yeah, for someone who doesn't remember,
I think that's kind of positive too. He's going to talk.
Well, yeah, but it's funny because for a character like you just said that has amnesia, he sure remembers everybody very well. Maybe this is after the fact, but either way. So then we have Windblade. So she's the resourceful city speaker. So they keep that city speaker concept with her for this continuity. Bumblebee talks about how she's super cool, but when she's angry, she's not Mrs. Nicebot. And she's probably going to have some kind of tie to fighting with the Seekers, which we'll get into afterwards. The Grimlock is revealed. We kind of knew what he looked like already because of the toys. This one, it shows that he kind of has more of an opening mouth instead of like a mouth plate that we're more familiar with the G1
Which is
Grimlock.
Interesting. A lot of these people have mouth plates. I mean,
Yeah.
sorry, they
Mouths.
don't have mouth plates. They have
Yeah.
mouths, regular mouths.
The thing here too that throws me off, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to enjoy it because I'm just so used to different, such a different Grimlock, is they mention here, and this is what Bumblebee says, when he's in bot mode, Grimlock is one of the smartest, smoothest talkers around. What? Okay.
So maybe he has the upgrade already.
Yeah, maybe. I'm thinking, because then as you continue reading it, it says in T-Rex mode, he's less about talking, more about smashing. I want to believe that when he's in robot mode, he has one personality, and when he's in T-Rex mode, he has another personality. Because otherwise, yeah, that's a huge departure for that character. We go to...
Well, here, check out what it says for Wheeljack.
Oh, yeah. So Wheeljack, now, first thing about Wheeljack, he has a cool mustachiazo going on here. Very G1 inspired design. Clearly the version of Wheeljack that they're going with here is the Inventor. So they're not going to be going with the Transformers Prime reimagination. They're going with the old
enthusiastic inventor.
Yeah, the old G1 Inventor who, again, stuff blows up in his face, typical G1 cartoon Wheeljack. So that's pretty cool that they're keeping that old Wheeljack instead of, because one thing is when the United continuity and the aligned continuity kind of started becoming a thing, certain aspects of even original G1 versions of characters started to get retconned, where I remember when G1 Jazz was inducted into the Hall of Fame, they made mention of him being a cyber ninja, and it was just kind of like, that wasn't a part of that character. But they were
take all the things, take them all.
Yeah, well, that's just it, because back then,
right-hand man and cyber ninja, take
when
them.
aligned was really a thing, the aligned continuity, they were fusing all the ideas. So, I mean, here it looks like they're putting aligned continuity behind them. They're focusing more on just, here's G1 and here's the stuff that's classic. So, Wheeljack, Inventor, stuff blows up in his face. Pure, Chris Latta Wheeljack that we know and love. We have Ratchet. And Ratchet, of course, he's in this case the selfless medic in this case. all the things that we pretty much associate with Ratchet. They don't mention him being grumpy, so they're not really going with old man Ratchet. They're going more with I believe it was Don Messick was Ratchet's voice in the Generation 1 cartoon. And he kind of had a grumpy old man kind of thing to him, but not completely. So who knows how this one's going to be handled, but the
Just
design...
seasoned vet in a hospital kind of thing, like
Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Next is, and I kind of knew that he was coming because we had that kids book thing that was leaked a while back, and it had a Hot Rod figure in it, and we were like, oh, I guess there is going to be a Hot Rod. So we have Hot Rod.
And he keeps getting toys.
Well,
Constantly.
You know what?
Being called Hot Rod.
Yeah, and he's called Hot Rod. So again, something that we knew with the Michael Bay movies, so that license is back and kicking. The way that it's played out here, his bio, it sounds like they're kind of pulling a little bit from The Last Night, where Bumblebee and him have a past together. Again, for a guy who suffers from amnesia, sure remembers everything. And how, he does reckless stunts and everything. So they're going really with that early IDW comics Hot Rod mixed with The Last Night's, past with Bumblebee kind of thing.
Right.
But, I mean, I really hope... And this is I really hope that maybe we could get Judd Nelson to continue, because this series is also the 11-minute format. Who knows how much Hot Rod's going to be in it anyways. If they could get Judd Nelson to do all the lines, even if it's in a limited capacity, that would be awesome. That really would be cool. I don't know who's the studio behind this, but that would be really cool. Otherwise, it's going to be another Hot Rod voice actor we're going to have to hunt down one day. But yeah.
No, we got to make it difficult for you.
Yeah, they're gonna give some super A tier actor that I'll never be able to get within 10 feet of. So then we got Prowl, and Prowl, same thing. They're staying true to his Generation 1 version, which is again a strategist, military strategist in this point, who really is Prime's right hand man if you don't count Jazz. It's always G1. It was Prowl and Jazz that were the second in command characters, and so they're playing up that old G1 Prowl with a little bit of Mach Alert from Car Robots, who was also known as Prowl in Robots in Disguise, where it's all about protocol, following orders and stuff like that. So and even Bumblebee in this,
the Boy Scout.
Yeah, where he wasn't really like that too much even in the Marvel Comics version, where he was really predominant. He wasn't too much like that. He was just more of a strong leader character and just went by the books, but not in a Mach Alert kind of way, which is you're breaking the law. Where even Bumblebee is mimicking him here because he's probably such a hard ass when it comes to that. Another one that I'm excited to see, and also the design choice in general. So we have G1 Blurr, very IDW inspired design.
Yep.
So really, really, really cool. And judging by the way Bumblebee talks here, it looks like they're going to keep the old, John Machia speed talking Blurr that talks really fast, so that's going to be really cool. And hey, if he's also available, I mean, they got him for animated. So if they could get him here again for this series, that would be awesome. I mean, that's again, just, he's one of those characters that, just like Optimus Prime and Megatron, is so strongly associated with a specific voice actor.
Yeah, exactly.
And really and amazingly up to this point, really, unless you count the stupid name changes of Armada, where it's oh, this character that's called Silverbolt, we're going to call him Blurr in the American continuity because we got to keep names registered. But otherwise, I mean, and I believe it was Michael Dobson that did that one. One of the Dobson brothers did Blurr's voice in that. But in general, the original Blurr has always been voiced by Mr. John and Mr. Micro Machine Man. So this is really cool to have him back. Overall, the cast of the Autobots, I dig it. It's a good balance. It even makes more sense when you look at the Decepticon side, because I feel that there's a lot of parallels when we get to that, which we'll do now. So of course we have Megatron. We already know about him. We already know that he's going to be a tank, and that he sports the G1 colors and stuff like that. So, and Bumblebee's description of him, I mean, you could write it, I could write it. He's cruel, he's ruthless, he's Megatron. We have Thundercracker, and it's the Elite Seeker. Now, before we get into the others, I'll mention this. The Decepticon ranks this time around are kind of split between Megatron's forces and then a large bulk of Seekers that are led by Starscream that's under Megatron's umbrella. And Seekers are a big part of this, and we'll get into that as we move forward. So we have Elite Seeker Thundercracker here. And usually when it comes to Thundercracker in different continuities, he's always been kind of the one that questions his allegiance. He was kind of like I don't want to say he's like Dinobot because there's no way he's Dinobot, but he's always been that character. It's like, I don't know if I should be with the Decepticons, and he never really sees that through with the Generation 1 continuity. But it was always brought up in his bios, even in his not Beast Machines, in his Machine Wars bio, which is supposed to be like the latest incarnation of that character in the ongoing continuities, still questioning his allegiance, still questioning where he is. So little things like that. And even in
Has that ever come up in any of the shows at
yes,
all?
Well, in Unicron Trilogy, which is again different continuity, he switches allegiance because they played that up because they knew that was a part of that character. In the IDW comics, that was something that came up because that was a part of that character. So it's always been something that's been a footnote in relation to that character. It's just that the most famous media of Generation 1, the original cartoon, never played it out. Just didn't play it out. And I mean, if you really want to look at it, it's like, okay, technically, and this is even a heated argument in itself, technically he became one of the the sweeps or Cyclonus or Scourge.
One of the upgrades.
So if that is him and Scourge kind of betrayed Galvatron and got the Matrix at one point, like assuming that Scourge is Thundercracker and it's not Skywarp, I mean, that's a whole loaded thing in itself.
I didn't even know that was the other we don't know which is which. Or
oh God, it's that one. It's like it's
arguments that go on forever.
Is it
the
Insecticons?
It's not definitive.
Is it the Insecticons? Is it Scourge? Like we've never had a definitive. There's different arguments. Oh well, in the Wreckers comic, you have Skywarp alongside with Scourge and Cyclonus, so clearly it's not him. We've never had a definitive answer. I mean, we've had comics that say this and that. We've had. I've always had my own opinions, but I'll just keep them to myself. But we've never really had a 100% definitive answer. Anyways, to move along, now we have Starscream. Starscream, again, we've seen the toys already. So it just mentions, he's everything that we know of Starscream. You can't trust him. He's cunning, blah, blah, blah. And he's the scheming second in command. So he's second in command, but he also leads his own battalion of Seekers, which we'll then get into now more. Shadow Striker, who we talked about previously in the past, and we were kind of showing like, oh, hey, she was previously all these black car repaints. Now she's a Seeker jet. And the only thing that I have a problem with this is because later on we're going to talk about Slipstream, who's also part of the crew. It's 2 purple female Seeker jets. It would have been cool if she was just another color. You know what I mean? Just like, I'm trying to think of like all the...
It's interesting because I'm looking at her chest plate and it looks more like a Viacon style, like from Transformers Prime.
It looks like a vehicle.
Comparatively to the other Seekers that we have here.
That's the crazy thing is that she does have like a car chest, but you look behind and it's like, is that wheels? Is that like a hovercraft thing? Maybe you're right. Maybe she still is a car, but I mean, you know what? I'm going to take it back. You're probably...
in the bio, they don't say that she's a Seeker.
It's true. You're right. You're right. You know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe she is a car. Because I can't imagine the designers, especially we're looking at this, like we have Shockwave and Slipstream, like that's a lot of purple,
Yeah.
And I can't imagine.
Purple.
There's already so much purple to begin with. I can't imagine them going, we're going to have 2 purple jets. So I could understand a purple car. You're probably right, or a purple whatever, some kind of land vehicle. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think the circles and then the little tips on them is just probably like, to make it look cooler.
A design change. It's kind of like if you look at Jazz's back and go, oh, he's clearly a jet. Yeah,
yeah, he's a flyer.
Because the wings, right?
A flying Porsche. And I wouldn't complain about that. Make it more broken.
But pretty much they don't mention much about her personality outside of like she really likes using a plasma blaster.
She's mean.
Yeah, and she's really mean. Her design itself, like the head sculpt, is very reminiscent of Transformers animated Black Arachnia. You mentioned off air.
Transformers animated Blitzwing, like one of his 3 heads.
A lot of similarities to that. So, but it's just cool to have this character back after all these years and finally have her fleshed out. We have Shockwave here. Again, it's being played up. The scientist Shockwave that we all know and love. Everyone was pointing out online why does Shockwave have his head on top of his head? If you look
Yeah.
carefully, he has like an eye on top of his eye. And then I just made a joke. I was like, well, for the first time, Shockwave finally does have two eyes. They're just not
Yeah.
lined up properly.
Yeah, I mean, like, come on, they are aliens. They wouldn't have the same. I don't think all. I mean, Jazz has a visor over his eyes, his optics.
I always feel that if he's a scientist, he must be, similar to like Perceptor. I feel that maybe that second eye on top of his head is for like zooming in or like analyzing stuff. That's like his analyzing eye or something. I don't know. Again, it's Shockwave. I love Shockwave. It's always been a personal favorite of mine. One of my favorite designs from Transformers. Easily one of my favorite villains outside of, let's say, Beast Wars Megatron. So like he's awesome, and again, from what the bio reads, it's going to be a G1 Shockwave, just playing up more of the laboratory kind of stuff that was kind of downplayed in the G1 cartoon, but really played up in say the Prime cartoon and obviously the G1 Marvel comic books.
Yeah, the
Doesn't
crazy
really
buff,
sound like he's
the crazy buff scientist.
yeah, and it doesn't seem to make any mention of him being any kind of like interested in being a leader. So, because that's also been something that's depending on which version of him you're looking at, could
Yeah.
be So it's cool either way. Slipstream, the purple jet, um, not much here that really tells you anything. Aside from the fact that she has impressive leadership skills, maybe she's going to be, because it says here she's the strategic seeker. So maybe
Yeah.
she's, like I said before, there's a lot of characters here that are parallels to the Autobots. She's probably the parallel to Prowl,
Mm.
in the same way that, same thing, Shockwave here, who's, the scientist, inventor, the parallel to Wheeljack. There's little connections here and there. So we have that with Slipstream. Then we go to Soundwave. Soundwave, I just want to mention, very interesting head sculpt.
He's
People
very
used
buffed up.
people used to always say in the past that, and I agree with it, was that Soundwave's head was what the original Generation 1 Decepticon logo was modeled after. This
Hmm.
is really selling it back like more than ever because like he really has some ears going on here. And again, it's Soundwave. They mentioned that he's a spy. There's no mention yet of tape cassettes or little like mini cons or cassette cons or whatever you want to call them. But probably he's going to have something. He has that chest there. He has all that
Yeah.
communicative stuff there. I'm pretty sure that he's going to come with something, or there'll be some kind of figures down the line, or it'll be in the show. But he's G1 Soundwave, and the design's cool. Again, that's a natural evolution. And last but not least, getting a prime focus, which is nice, is the character of Acid Storm. Acid Storm in the past was a background character in the Generation 1 cartoon. Really didn't get much attention, and it wasn't until he got his first official toy, either if you want to look at the Masterpiece toy that came later, or before that, the Universe 2.0 release. So Acid Storm finally gets some attention, and he's the menacing seeker, as they call him, and he, uses everything that we knew from his limited appearances: creation of toxic rain, the ability to manipulate weather, that kind of stuff. So pretty cool cast. I dig what we have here. A nice mix. I'm curious to see what surprises they might have. I was hesitant about this show because of its 11-minute runtime. I really want this to be good. I really, really
Yeah.
want this to be good. I found that there was aspects that I liked of the Robots in Disguise 2.0 series that just passed. There was aspects of it that I enjoyed, but overall I wasn't that much of a fan of it. I found that it was kind of dry in some areas. I liked the character of Strong Arm. I liked how they handled Blurr. I liked how they handled Sideswipe. Good characters. But I found
Mm.
that the overall story was kind of meh. So a lot of good characters here. So I really hope that we have a good story here. I really do. I mean, again, it's going to have Hot Rod, and I really hope that we just get something good with Hot Rod. Hot Rod, unfortunately, outside of the '86 movie, kind of has a really bad track record of being attached to stuff. I love Hot Rod, but it's like, let's see. Hot Rod was in season 3. Some people argue that season 3 was the worst season of the 4
Mhm.
seasons of Generation 1. Mind you, don't count season 4, but of the
Yeah.
3 seasons of Generation 1, Everyone argues that season 3 was kind of the worst one. Then we look at the Takara series: Headmasters, Master Force, and Victory. Hot Rod was in the Headmasters one. Easily is the worst of the three, in my opinion. And that's the one that has Hot Rod in it. And then we look at the Unicron trilogy. What was the one that had Hot Rod in it? That was Energon. Energon is unanimously known as the worst of the three of the Unicron trilogy in terms of writing and stuff. And that's the one that had Rodimus in it. Then we have Animated. Animated's good, but he really was only there for a hot minute, so it doesn't really count too much. And he was in season 3, which probably was the best season anyways. But again, that's kind of a hard one to compare. And then we look at even the movieverse. I mean, The Last Night wasn't that great. Granted, Hot Rod wasn't in Revenge of the Fallen, but wasn't that great either. So his track record, unfortunately, when it comes to visual media, hasn't been that great. So I'm really hoping that this could turn it around, and maybe we'll have a really good series that has Hot Rod in it and get some focus on him. But otherwise, I dig it. Anything you want to say about this?
I don't know. I think that maybe they're adding more new characters just so that maybe down the line they don't have to fight for certain characters' names.
Oh yeah,
That's what I'm assuming.
totally. Like the character of Acid Storm hasn't been used in a while. I'm actually looking at my bot shots because
there was a bot shot.
Well, that's why, because there was like a bot shots of Acid Storm, and I think that was the last one.
What's the little tiny figurines called?
Oh, the Tiny Titans. Yeah, you're right.
I
think there was one of him too. Yeah, well, see, lines like bot shots and, like you just mentioned, Tiny Titans, they existed specifically for stuff like that. So this is another excuse for the next 3 years to keep them secure. And clearly, in the case of, say, Slipstream and Shadow Striker, those are characters we don't really see popping up anywhere else. Like, I don't really see a Slipstream existing in let's say, I don't know, like the Generation stuff that we have coming in the future, or a movie. Like he's not going to be in the Bumblebee movie, neither Shadow Striker. So those belong there. It's a good spot to put them.
Yeah.
It's a good. That's another reason why there's a lot of new characters here, because they don't really have a place anywhere else right now. So it kind of makes sense. But yeah, I definitely dig it.
I'm hopeful for it. I'm like with any Transformers new series, we're always hopeful to see, like, is it something that we'll dig? Is it something that's, well, I mean, they've already said it's specifically meant for kids, but doesn't necessarily mean that it'll just skew super hard towards them. It might be a good balance for kids and adults, because sometimes parents want to watch the shows that their kids are watching, or introduce them to something that they think is cool and that has that stamp of approval from Transformers.
Well, that's the general consensus here. Is a lot of people are feeling this is like an introduction to that Generation 1 cast for a new generation, where in the past it's always been, like we always used to say, like, Beast Wars is someone's G1, Armada is someone's G1.
Yeah.
Now it's this is going to be someone's G1, except it is G1,
And as Hasbro was saying before at HasCon, they're more about trying to be a family company, try to bring everybody together, kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's a big thing too, I feel that's going to be the direction that the line and the brand is going to take a lot more in the future.